The Flicks Tape.
They have no future as they have no past. Tomorrow as today, slavery will be their only possible privilege.
We gods, man. We kings, man. We lords.
I was born black, I live black, and I'm gonna die probably because some cracker that knows I'm black better than you, nigga, is probably gonna put a bullet in the back of my head.
This is the remix. My father was raised in the era when black niggas couldn't claim Native American.
Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. But you never find a white aborigine. Rather, aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are aborigines, but you don't like to be called an aborigine. You want to be called an American. Aborigine actually means from the beginning. Two Latin words. Ab meaning from, origine meaning the beginning.
Great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. That the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace, and to which you owe your life and your identity.
Remember that big Indian dude in that movie? Mm-hmm. He was cool. And then he couldn't talk unless he was talking about gum?
Yeah. You know, I think you're not supposed to say Indian either.
No way, really?
Yeah. I think you're supposed to call them African Americans.
Oh, you're shoemakers now. And more importantly, you're a person of color. You're no longer a Nipmuc person. And that shows through in these county histories and also in the census records at the time. You find a person described in the 1860 census as an Indian. In the 1870 census, they're described as a person of color or a colored person. Same person, but the census taker, as part of the white dominant society, decides that this person is no longer Nipmuc.
Since y'all always screaming about DNA, watch what the biology professor says about DNA. Watch this.
Smith's breakdown from Ancestry showed 97% European and 2% Asian.
I'm a black girl. I am not a Jewish white lady. I'm black. My parents were black.
She contacted Ancestry with questions, but says a rep told her the results are accurate.
These DNA tests for ethnicity are entertainment value only.
William Gilliland is a biology professor at DePaul. He says DNA kits can be great for connecting family members and finding relatives, but the science for ethnicity testing isn't as concrete.
There's nothing that confident for ethnicity. There's no diagnostic nucleotide. You can say this person is from Europe, this person's from Africa.
You see that? DNA can't tell you where you're from. A scholar tells the truth. Watch this.
But many African Americans, you are the Native Americans. You're not even African Americans, you're Native Americans. You're the ones that they brought blankets with, was it smallpox or whatever diseases, and wiped out entire communities because they said they came in peace, but they actually came in war. And they are still warring us right until this day. So there are those beloveds of you who really don't feel any connection to Mama Africa. And this is just, you know, a confirmation, a reassurance that America belongs to you.
So Africans know this history, but nobody else does? Come on, make it make sense.
At me. And so with the help of my wife, we extracted enough saliva to send off in the mail. We were so excited to see the results. After about 3 months, we were shocked. My lizard was 51% Ashkenazi Jewish. He was also 48% West Asian. This was really interesting. They also gave us a little bit of his background and his history, what he liked to eat, etc. Let us know which animal's DNA we should.
If you're looking to get genealogy consultation, I highly recommend Mike. You know, he was very thorough, prompt, very knowledgeable. Even taught me some stuff about the background of Indian ancestry and heritage that I didn't know. The biggest piece of it is he taught me how to pull records and really dig into those records to make sure that I have things to match up to be able to take back for my citizenship. So I really appreciate everything he does, and I highly recommend Mike as your genealogist.
You don't have to try to be something you're not.
Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? That's being something I'm not, then fine.
My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois.
I know all of that, Mama.
They don't know this. I am alive because of the blood of the people who never scraped or begged or apologized for what they were. They asked only one thing of this world: to be allowed to be. It broke my heart when you changed your name. I gave you my grandmother's name, a woman who bore 9 children and educated them all, who held off 6 white men with a shotgun when they tried to drag one of her sons off to jail for not knowing his place. And you had to reach into an African dictionary to find a name that would make you proud.
My father was raised in the era when black niggas couldn't claim Native American. Making music would've thought I had help, but the Indians I know wanna be the chief they self.
All I can speak for is our band, Horace Strong, the Austin Express. Right. They got people coming from all over the world. They want to know about the Creole, the Cajun.
Yeah.
That music and this culture brings people together.
Hello, Mr. Horace.
Go to my grandparents, and my grandpa just had those old records. He had some old French music.
My name is Rodney Bernard. So I get that scrub board and I go in the kitchen with my grandmother and open the drawer and looking for a spoon. And she tell me, wait, Rodney. Don't use my good spoon. Wait, I'll give you 2 old spoons so you can use it.
The same knife cut the sheep, cut the gold. What you gonna do with the knife that you throw? That's where it started back in them stadiums at Campo High School. When I started, he let boom, 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 boom. And nobody would tell me to start at the nut.
Me, myself, I really think it's more of dancing music than any other kind of music. You know, I like the waltz, and it's just something else, different.
The same knife cut the sheep, cut the gold.
When I went to Germany and Paris, France, man, hey, I was a star over there. Oh, big time.
You're part of a living, breathing, growing culture, so respect it. But this is like a culture that goes deep in the blood for a lot of people.
So let's get down to the truth about the music in Louisiana.
It didn't pay us to talk English.
They don't understand.
They didn't understand. They called me a little Frenchman. And boy, that would hurt.
I'd go over there and try to talk English.
We play what I believe in. But I mean, we're doing zydeco and I'm playing flute. We like to innovate.
We're about to rewrite the history in Louisiana. You ready? What you gonna do if the knife's at your throat?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hit the like button on the way in, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission, and let's get into the content. This is a encore. I just wrapped up a broadcast on Phil Scott's paying goofy ass, disrespecting the Creole culture over there down south. And, you know, he said some very off-color, polarizing despicable things. Very, very egregious rhetoric, if you ask me. And I know that there were some folks that wanted to call in. I know that the last stream was cut a little short, so this is a encore stream. If anybody wants to click the link and call in, now is the time to do so. If not, we'll just go ahead and wrap up. But because we ended the last stream on such short notice, I wanted to give anybody the chance to call in if they had some more thoughts that they wanted to get off. But while we wait to see if we have any live callers, let's go ahead and give a quick recap of all the bullshit Phil Scott was talking about.
Ways is correct, but some things that she did not say. Now, she's right. They did not marry people that look like me, my color, right? Because a lot of them wanted to preserve that color. Like my grandmother said, I'm more inclined to believe my grandma because my grandma has never steered me wrong. She said they want to preserve that color. So she told me, somebody like you, no, no, no. Matter of fact, this is my grandma said, you got to be careful with them little Creole women. And I'll say, why do you say that? You say, because in order to preserve that color, if they could not, like she said, get with other Creoles, they would get with a third and fourth cousin.
I love when you lying like that. So I'ma keep lying like that. I love when you lying like that. So I'ma keep lying like that.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, Phil Scott has an imaginary fairy grandmother that's a Louisiana Creole, and she says the Creoles participate in incest and inbreeding. What? Meanwhile, before going on this inappropriate tirade, he literally watched a video from this Creole sister where she goes out of her way to say that the Creole people did not participate in inbreeding.
Would you believe that there's a document that proves that they actually had a pact that they would do that? Okay, there's a lot of talk about why is it that so many Creoles married other Creoles. There's a term or a phrase they used to say, keeping it in the family. And it was literally that. Am I saying that my ancestors were committing incest? No.
She literally just said my ancestors were not committing incest, but Phil's going to say that they commit incest because his imaginary Creole grandma that he just pulled out of his ass said so. Okay.
Correct, but some things that she did not say. Now, she's right. They did not marry people that look like me, my color, right? Because a lot of them wanted to preserve that color. Like my grandmother said, I'm more inclined to believe my grandma because my grandma has never steered me wrong. She said they want to preserve that color. So she told me, somebody like you, no, no, no. Matter of fact, this is my grandma said, you got to be careful with them little Creole women. And I'll say, why do you say that? You say, because in order to preserve that color, if they could not, like she said, get with other Creoles, they would get with a third and fourth cousin.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. Should we believe the Creole woman in the video, or should we believe the pan goofy who claims he has a Creole grandma that told him some rumor about some intermarriage with? Because I don't know, guys. This is an encore stream, the last main live stream I did on the subject before this broadcast. We had a lot of people, over 200 live viewers, a lot of Creole people in the chat. They all said Phil Scott was lying. They all said Phil Scott was talking out of his ass. So why does he feel the need to do this? I don't understand. You run an African diaspora news station. Why don't you want to just talk about them Africans? Why don't you just want to stick to talking about the Bush babies? And before anybody says, well, Mike, you know, let's be more respectful. You're being a bit harsh calling them Bush babies. No, Bush baby is an appropriate title for them backward savages. Yeah, what's worse, me calling them a Bush baby or them eating smoked monkey raw? All right. And you know what, guys? Luckily, we do have a guest calling in. This is actually the main reason I'm doing this broadcast. We have the sister calling in. She had some questions. We had to wrap up the last stream in a rush manner. So, you know, this is a call-in stream so we can get these thoughts out and chop it up a bit about Creole culture. The first person we have coming from the back to the front is New Era. New Era, let the people know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Oh, Carolina, same thing. You'd have put me in the backstage. You'd have talked to sister first. I'll talk to you after that.
Okay, well, hey, I thought you identified as a woman, and it's ladies first. So,
oh, you mad? You mad because you can't ask no more? Don't be mad. Don't be mad. Treat this
I
as
want
another.
my baby back, baby back, baby back.
She my baby.
All
Yes.
right, brother. I'll bring you up in a minute. We got It Is What It Is. Remind us, sister, where you calling in from and what's on your mind.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Michigan.
All right, lay it on us. You got some questions about Creole culture, right?
Yeah, because I had a story. It's very brief. I'm not going to be long-winded. But the guy, he looked unusual, and I've never seen anybody like that. And just to give a brief background of me, like I have Native American or in my blood, and you can tell that from my hair texture. But I have a darker complexion.
I got you.
Different. I've
Oh,
never.
hold on. I'm going to place you on mute for just a moment. Your audio started going real wonky on us. So I'm just going to give it a second to sort itself out. Say something again.
Okay. Can you hear me?
All right, it's fixed now. Yeah, it's fixed now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry. But I saw the guy. Like I said, my background, I have Native American in my blood, and you can tell that from the texture of my hair. But I am of a darker complexion, and the guy that I saw, he was very, very fair, very, very light hair texture, kinda very loose, not even a curl in it, very straight. And he walked up to me and he said, "You're one beautiful chocolate sister." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And he said that he was Creole from Louisiana. And I said, I said, "You're," I said, "Okay." And he kind of broke down what Creole was, because I was kind of like offended by him saying I'm a chocolate. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Why is this white man calling me a chocolate?" And he was
But you didn't know that white man might have actually been a black man, right?
yeah, so he explained that he was, cause my smile was kind of crooked. It was kind of like a confused smile, and I guess he probably got that before. And he said, I'm black, I'm Creole, from Louisiana, blah blah blah. And I said, "Oh, okay." But I've heard about Creole people from Louisiana, but I never was face to face with one. And it's I'm kind of curious as to what is their genetic makeup, because they look like white people, and but I don't know how, to process that, to be honest with you, because they can look white. They can look white. So yeah, that was that was an experience. But he was a very handsome guy, but he looked unusual. Like he didn't look like biracial or anything. He might have had prominent features, but it wasn't enough to say, "Oh, you're a black guy." Uh, and he had the swag and the cadence.
If you're looking to get genealogy consultation, I highly recommend Mike. He was very thorough, prompt, very knowledgeable. Even taught me some stuff about the background of Indian ancestry and heritage that I didn't know. The biggest piece of it is he taught me how to pull records and really dig into those records to make sure that I have things to match up to be able to take back for my citizenship. So I really appreciate everything he does, and I highly recommend Mike as your genealogist.
My life and giving me the direction I always needed, because growing up I did not know about my family, nor did I know how to find out about my family. So the fact that I tried other avenues and I felt like I was getting scammed, going through his consultation, I really felt like someone was actually trying to help me out and throwing a lot of fat on my head, bro. A lot of the things that he dropped, a lot of the gems that he's gonna show you, wholeheartedly, man, hang on tight, because that shit blew my mind.
Name is Javaris Johnson. I work in the oil and gas industry as a truck driver. I recently just did a consultation for my genealogy with Mike at Key Media Pro. It was awesome. A lot of great information. A lot of stuff I'm going to have to go back and digest, because it was so much information, man. And it really helped me to get on the path to enrolling with my tribe and learning everything, man. And it's just a great and awesome experience. I encourage you guys, if you're curious, to go out, do your family tree, and connect with your ancestry.
Black man, but it was just like, oh my gosh, where are you? But it was quite an experience. But I heard that they're heavily mixed. Their DNA is with I believe white or French, given the history of Louisiana. And to kind of, and I don't want to offend Creole people because I don't know a lot deep a lot of their history, but to kind of combat, but also kind of just, I guess, entertain what Philip Scott, because I'm not a fan of his anyway either, but to entertain what he's saying. I've heard a lot of white people in the area that I live say that marrying a second or third cousin is not something that they're against. And
And
just
which area
kind
do
of
you live in again?
Michigan.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, well, I mean, Louisiana, French territory versus Michigan, two totally different things. But I think first we should definitely harp on the genetic makeup of the Creole people, because Creole people aren't just simply white people or light-skinned black people. They're basically a part of a cosmopolitan society of Indians, Africans, and French. So, those people freely intermixing with one another for hundreds of years, you get the admixture now known as Creole. As far as complexions, there are dark-skinned Creoles, there are light-skinned Creoles, there's everything in between. But Creole is not a complexion, it's a culture, first and foremost. So there's
Yeah.
folks who look just like regular black folks, and they have Creole culture. And then there's people that look like white people, but you can tell they've got some black phenotypes and, the black cadence, just like you mentioned earlier. So, there is a lot of subtle nuance, but yeah, there's some Creole sisters up on the screen right now. And although a
Right.
lot of people associate the Creoles with the more fairer skin, there are dark skinned Creoles as well, because it's a culture above all else.
Correct, because typically when you look to media, fair skinned Creoles are pushed forward. So the reason why I'm speaking to that, because it's more prominent to see that in media, fairer skinned Creole people. Just like you have, darker skinned biracials, but they're not pushed to the front. It's just lighter skins, and that's the dynamic of the world in which we live in. But I understand that Creole culture in Louisiana is very unique, and I would like to learn more about it. But again, as far as the inbreeding circumstance, I've heard a lot of white people, not only in my area, but I've heard a lot of white people say that that like marrying with like a second or third cousin is not out of the norm. And given that Creole people have European ancestry, and in Europe that was
Do
practiced
you
as
understand the
well.
difference between different European heritage?
Um, for the sake of
Well,
not
not all Europeans are the same,
no,
right? Not all Europeans are just white people. I mean, you've got Scottish, Irish, French, British. So when you talk about the people who are the rednecks, the incest, I mean, you find that a lot with the British crowd. But when we talk about the Creole people, this is a
yeah.
culture that one part of that culture does have European admixture, but that's specifically French. So, I think it's definitely a false equivalency to try to justify misinformation about Creoles inbreeding by juxtaposing that to stories of other European cultures inbreeding. Because, to compare Creoles to just European culture by and large, that's apples to oranges.
No, and I agree, and that's why I didn't want to offend anybody. That's why I'm kind of treading lightly, because I don't know the history. But for the lack of education around it, I am doing the whole juxtaposing thing. Europeans and their European DNA, and I'm like, could they have some sort of correlation? Could they have some sort of y- something that's
Well,
passed?
let's get into it. When you say you've heard about white people marrying their cousins where you live in Minnesota, are these French people or are these British people?
That I never dug into. I
So
just
if you
saw.
don't know the specific European culture that they come from, we can't really compare that to a culture of Indian, African, French.
True. I didn't even want to ask them that because when they said that was not a problem, I just kind of
He was
like.
like, yeah, I feel awkward talking about this, huh?
I was like, I'm
He's
not
like, so
even
I don't
gonna
need
say,
details now.
like, because I wanted to say what the, and I was like, maybe this is a cultural practice, so let me shut up. It's more of them than it is me. So, no, I do want to say that I'm asking these questions with much respect, and
Oh yeah,
I
of
just
course.
want to learn more.
Well, see, and it's great that you're here with an open mind to learn and asking these questions, because it looks like we actually have a Creole brother calling in. We've got Roy coming from the back to the front. Roy, let the people know where you're calling in from and what's on your mind.
Calling from Lake Charles, Louisiana.
All right, and Roy, are you able to answer some of the sisters' questions?
I got on. I was hearing her talk about it. I didn't really hear everything she was saying. So if you can clue me in, then I can clear some stuff up.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll give a brief recap for all the new viewers right now, and then she can go ahead and jump in and ask you any questions. But basically, we were talking about how Phil Scott was doing a misinformation campaign. He literally watched a video where a Creole sister said that Creole people wanted to preserve their culture. They wanted to keep the culture within the family. They did not participate in inbreeding, and they were not racist or colorist. They just wanted to preserve their culture and their familiar wealth. Well, Phil took that video and said Creole people are racist inbreds. So now this sister's calling in and she's like, hey, I know you guys are saying Creole people didn't inbreed, but I'm in Minnesota and I've heard some Europeans in Minnesota say they do marry their cousins. So I said, hey, I understand you've heard that, but we can't compare Creole people who are a mixture of African, Indian, and French and compare them to some random white folks in Minnesota, right? But so that's basically where we were at in the conversation thus far. And then you came in like a gift from God because you are a Creole brother. So you know, I don't want to be some Creole spokesperson when I'm not necessarily, you know, of the culture like that.
Yeah, well, first Creole, I guess you would call it like Hispanic. You know, it's different Creoles. They got white, black, you know, mixture of both, mixture of Native American. Is a mixture of different cultures, but you can have just black or just white because a Creole is not some people that you just put together and be like, that's a Creole they look just like one. You can't tell. You know what I'm saying? It's not a it's like what you said, it's a culture, really. It's not a I know what people like to think that it's a you know, you see the green eyes or you seen that well, that's in every family. Everybody in the family got somebody with green eyes. Everybody got somebody in the family that's dark skinned. Everybody got somebody in the family that's light skinned. Everybody got somebody in the family that's red. Because you have somebody that name red because they're red. You know, it's just different people. So you can't just put it's not a monolith. You can't just put uh, a certain stigma on certain people. Now, what Phil was talking about was they did have a section of Creoles that tried to take the Creole name for themselves. That's what he was talking about. But the larger community said no. That's why a lot of white people don't identify as Creole in Louisiana. They identify
Hold
as
on, wait a
Cajun.
minute, brother. Wait a minute. If I may,
Uh-huh.
if that is where he was coming from, he did a terrible job explaining that.
Yeah, because they did have a section of Creoles in New Orleans, which is what he was talking about, that did try to take the Creole name for themselves. But like I say, the community didn't go for that. That's why a lot of white folks now call themselves Cajun, even though they are not. If you ever come to Louisiana, a lot of people identify as Cajun, but they're not Cajun. Cajun was only a select few that came to Louisiana. So that's another identity that they took and ran with it. Most stuff in Louisiana is Cajun, like is Creole. The food, there's no such thing as Cajun food. I know everybody like to say Cajun this and Cajun, well, there's no such thing.
So you telling me when I just had me some Alabama Cajun wings?
Yeah,
the
that
other
was
day,
just
that's
something they
really
made up.
Creole.
That's
Okay.
Creole food. That's not. You can't. It's How can you take a food and just name it something that is not yours? Like somebody say Cajun gumbo. I never heard that till I got older. It was just gumbo. Then all of a sudden they start putting Cajun on it, and everybody identified Cajun as, of course, white people. but that's not the case. Gumbo, you can go to Africa right now and get a bowl of gumbo. That's why I like to teach people the history of that. There's no such thing as a Cajun gumbo because the Cajuns actually learned how to make gumbo from the Creole. So how can it be yours if you learned it from somebody? You know, jambalaya. Jambalaya is a mixture of Creole, which is African. It comes from West Africa. Jambalaya is jollof rice. And of course, you know, being in America, you don't have the same ingredients that you do in Africa. So they made their own stuff. That's why it's called jambalaya. Jambalaya actually means words. Jambalaya means ham with rice. That's what jambalaya means. A lot of people don't know that. They just put, you know, it's like, oh, that's just called jump. No, it actually means something. Same thing with gumbo. Gumbo actually means something too. Gumbo means okra. But people, they just run with stuff and they say stuff like we have a thing called Cajun country, where it used to be called Creole country, and then Edwards changed the name to Cajun country. Out of the 23 parishes, 17 I think were Creole parishes.
And they just talk about Louisiana parishes. Are these kind of like towns or cities?
Yeah, they like counties, I guess you would call them in all the rest of the countries. All the rest of the country is like Orange County and stuff like that, or parishes. I live in Calcasieu Parish. That's the west part of Louisiana, southwest part of Louisiana. That's near as near the border of Texas. That's why you have a lot of people move from Louisiana to Texas, Houston and Port Arthur. Well, Phil's from Port Arthur, so I don't understand why he's talking about Creoles, but they have a whole bunch of Creoles in Port Arthur where he's from. So I don't understand why he would say something like that. Actually, probably in the community where he's from, there's Cajun Creole people. So I don't understand. Maybe he was trying to make a point of some kind, but it didn't fit his point because it was null and void.
Yeah, and you know what? Before we provide an open platform for the sister to ask you some more questions and stuff, I know there's a lot of new viewers right now who haven't seen the last live stream we just did. So let's just go ahead and do a quick recap on the controversy.
So you got, one of the sisters from Louisiana, one of the Creole sisters, is going to kind of explain to you just a little bit of their history. But, she's a lot right in what she's saying. But my grandmother told me a lot about the Creole history. Because my grandmother, is from Louisiana. But let's go ahead and roll the clip.
Would you believe that there's a document that proves that they actually had a pact that they would do that? Okay, there's a lot of talk about why is it that so many Creoles married other Creoles. There's a term or a phrase they used to say, keeping it in the family. And it was literally that. Am I saying that my ancestors were committing incest? No.
So she literally goes out of her way to clarify and say keeping it in the family does not mean incest, does not mean inbreeding. But in the moment, Phil's going to say, oh, yeah, y'all marry y'all cousins.
No.
What that meant was we had a class of people of our own. The gens du couleur were in a very unique position. They could not marry slaves. They could not marry whites sometimes. Sometimes they could, sometimes they couldn't based on the law. Did they have consensual relationships outside of marriage? Yes, they did. Here's the thing. These people were not like us. They had a whole different set of dynamics, and it was a different world, a different time. Socially, there were things that weren't acceptable. Think of it however you want to, but what wasn't acceptable at the time were people who made a certain amount of money dating down or marrying down. Okay, these people.
So now she's going out of her way to say, also, when we talk about keeping it in the family, it's not on no racism. It's not on no colorism. It's not no light skin versus dark skin gang wars of the 90s. No, this was about preserving family wealth.
Were all about looks, okay? Now, appearances, that was big. They could not marry down. That's literally, it was like, when I tell you that these people were the richest people in America, it was like a Kardashian dating a high school basketball coach. It was like that. I'm telling you, they were rich. They were rich with a capital R. So many of the people who were slaves that didn't work themselves up, right, after they became free or whatever, they couldn't marry them. And they couldn't marry whites sometimes. So what they did was they all created a little community within themselves because they were not really able to mix outside of that. And they kind of ran with their own people just the same way that we do in terms of finances. It wasn't skin tone, it was finances. If you were on their level financially.
So, first point that she clarified, no incest. Second point, she clarified, no discrimination based on complexion, no discrimination based on skin tone. Yes, prejudice or discrimination or lack of wanting to mix rich families with poor families, but this ain't got nothing to do with colorism. This has to do with haves and have-nots.
Okay. Now, many of them tried to keep the money within the family because it was their way of trying to build community. Because so many things with the whites, it was caused.
And thank you for the history lesson, S. Larvadan. I recently watched some stuff on Nipsey, and I learned that his father was like Eritrean or East or North African, but I didn't know that his mother was Creole.
His mother from New Orleans.
Probably.
Oh, from New Orleans, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what's up. The more you know.
Problematic. So this was their Black Wall Street type of mentality. They had made pacts to marry each other's families, and that's what they did.
Now, what she said in a lot of ways is correct, but some things that she did not say. Now, she's right. They did not marry people that look like me, my color, right?
She didn't say that. She didn't say that once,
but
right?
which is not true. But you know, it was a lot of dark skinned people in Louisiana had money back then. See, that's what they don't tell you. But
That's what I was gonna say.
yeah, a lot of dark skinned Creoles had money. That's why they started a paper business in Louisiana and everything. You know, it wasn't just like they say light skin. That's why he's getting that mixed up with the he in his mind a Creole is light skin. That's all he knows. And I live in Louisiana and I see dark skinned people all the time. That's Creoles. I'm telling you, and they got plenty of paper, like rich.
And I know you're saying that what Philip is saying is wrong, but I think that kind of gives credence to the whole racist and colorism comment.
Well, not really, because my grandfather dark. My grandfather blacker than this. I'm looking at this typewriter right here. He's darker than that. My grandmother light skinned, so it's not possible. As first of all, Creole is more language based than anything, because a Creole is his own language to be. See, a lot of people don't know Creole is his own language, not French and not Spanish. It's his own language. A Creole person can speak French, but a French person can't speak Creole because of the way the language structure is. That's another thing people get misconstrued.
Wow.
Yes, it's a French. See, it's a French-based language, but it has a lot of other things in it. Like you have a lot of Spanish words in it. You have a lot of Native American words in it. You have a lot of African words in it, and you have a lot of local languages. You know, from once over the years that's passed through the years. That's why if you don't live here, it's kind of hard to understand.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you're new to the broadcast, smash the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission. We're taking a deep dive into some more of Phil Scott's lunacy. He has been disrespectful towards our culture. He's been buck dancing and tap dancing for these goddamn bush babies that are actively trying to subvert us on our own native land. And you know I'm talking about them Africans. We got to start calling them Africans because there ain't nothing that an African can do but flee from his country to go suck on a white man's dick in Europe somewhere, okay? I mean, it's real crazy. And now the Africans are sneaking through a border fence somewhere near you. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think that hits with enough weight. I don't think that lands with enough force. I said, guys, I am the modern day Paul Revere, but instead of saying the British are coming, I'm here to warn you that the Africans are coming.
More than 200 African migrants have scaled the border fence into the Spanish enclave of Melilla. It's the biggest assault on the border in more than 8 years. The new arrivals, many from Cameroon and Guinea, headed towards the Migrant Reception Centre, celebrating touching European soil. The latest incursion at Melilla brings the number of migrants who've successfully scaled the fence to almost 600 so far this year.
Yeah, welcome to Mike TV. You're going to subscribe now, right? Phil Scott wants to defend these people. He wants to explain for these people. He wants to try to convince us to go to their land, not ours, to go to their motherland, their homeland, and what? Move there and invest in business and property? Guys, Phil Scott is a prime example of a pan-goofy. Notice how none of these Pan-Africans ever live in Africa? I'm just saying, do you realize these pan-goofies never live in Africa? They preach Africa as the motherland. They scream it from the mountaintop. They do travel package tour scams. They make African diaspora news channels to make money, milking the African media. And guess what? They don't want to live there, though, huh? Kelvin says, have you ever heard of O'Shea Duke Jackson? Sir, you must be new here. Thank you for showing up. Make sure to subscribe. Go ahead and look into my archive. I have exposed your favorite content creator. Whoever you look to for some laughs, some jokes, whoever you thought was a big wig in these streets, chances are Mike's already exposed him. I started out with the Manosphere, Kevin Samuels, Melanie King, Anton Daniels, Fresh and Fit, Just Pearly Things, Hannah Pearl Davis. The list goes on and on. We went to Umar Johnson and the likes. We went to the conscious community. Matter of fact, I pulled up on Umar Johnson, mano y mano.
Well, the only reason why I mentioned people's actions is because you yourself exclusively date black, yet you're one of the biggest scammers in our community. It's been 12 years. And you still haven't.
Why you do me like that? Why you do me like that?
Yeah, so when you ask if I've ever heard of O'Shea Duke Jackson, I haven't just heard of him. I've done several in-depth exposés, and I exposed the sex network, the prostitution ring that he is actively involved in over there in Africa. Remember, he claims he was in medical school, gonna be a doctor, but then drops out to be a gossip blogger in an African village somewhere. No, the nigga's on some Epstein shit. Let's talk about it. If you're new to my show, I have a nickname. It's the King of Receipts, because I don't just get up here and gossip. I present evidence to the court of public opinion, and we look through the facts to see what's what.
So you and me are going to help recruit Ugandan girls for black dudes in America. That means that we are going to create, like, we're going to hook Ugandan women, pretty ones like you, up with guys in America. They're all USA people. America. You want to go to America, yeah? All right. I'm not. See, here's the thing, though, right? I didn't know y'all was really interested in that. Because most of the dudes was interested in the Brazil shit. I didn't know y'all was interested in the African women like that, man. For fun, but I'll definitely do it. I'll create I'll stay a little longer and create it for y'all. If y'all want me to create something like that for that, I will definitely stand up. No, don't feel shy.
I did laugh at me, right?
They're not laughing. Today. Skinny as she is, I wasn't expecting that donkey booty.
Damn, come on. Max says, is this a skit? No, it's an incel with an African prostitute snitching on himself in real time, 4K. Well, not really 4K. That's a dusty ass Obama phone. That's barely HD, but you know what I mean.
Do you think that your ass is small, or like other girls are just like much bigger?
The much bigger.
You guys hear that? Much bigger.
What do you just say,
Oh, you gotta get me some girls. You get me some girls. Not your fat friend, but one that be messaging me and shit.
God damn it. I guess now I got to change the title of this broadcast to "You're Gonna Unsubscribe from Phil Scott and O'Shea Duke Jackson" after this one, right, guys?
All of my people. So yeah, you gotta start talking at the channel. Lot of booty shaking.
I mean, we go like I do. Look,
Yo, Lala, say hi to the
I
people.
do
Lala is sending you the fucking damn god kisses.
I don't look fine.
Motherfucker, you look perfect.
So why y'all ain't getting the likes up, man, on this? You know? Nah, these are my this is my staff, right? So that's Kinganda, man. Y'all go subscribe to Kinganda channel, because we be doing some crazy stuff over there, but I'm now with the he said, what up, John Downs? He said I saw him.
Nothing as if about it looks right? Exactly, that's what I'm asking. I'm like,
What up, A1? I'm not no pimp.
TJ.
I'm a trick.
Hi, TJ.
You know who TJ is?
No, I don't. We don't care.
Let me go. Lick your elbows. Let me lick your elbows today. Give me the elbows. Tricking live.
Yeah, you gonna subscribe now, right? You see how thorough I am with it? You see how meticulous I am with the research and the receipts? Guys, I've got a terabyte hard drive with a folder with all these niggas' names on it. Come on. But right now, let's focus on Phil Scott and the asinine things he's been saying about the Louisiana Creoles as well as the Native Black American population. But before we do, a quick word from our sponsor. And you know that I'm demonetized and shadow banned. So when I say a quick word from our sponsor, you know I really just mean a quick word from me. You see, guys, I'm also a full-time genealogist. So if you've yet to trace your family's heritage, if you've yet to do the meticulous paper trail genealogy research that it takes to really see what your roots are, then go ahead and hit your boy up. I am here to help. And most people don't realize that DNA tests cannot prove ethnicity or tribal affiliation. And we cannot trust these pan-goofy sellouts like Phil Scott who want us to believe that we have some kind of kinship, some kind of affinity, some kind of shared heritage with these bush baby savages. I'm sorry, that sounded kind of harsh. Don't worry, I can be harsher. I said, we got to really do the paper trail genealogy research to make sure that we don't fall for these pan-goofy Prince of Potato Salad-esque scams that try to link us to some bald-head, bush baby, inbred, backwards, babbling, bitch-made tethers like these.
Johnny,
Yeah, this who Phil want to tell us to go visit. Go over there to the motherland. Go to the motherland and go to the bush and feed the poor African baby and write your comma. Your comma will be truthfully okay. Say, oh. You know that anytime they convince us to go to Africa, it's on some scamming and scheming type shit, right, guys? It's on some scamming and some scheming type shit. Come on. This is madness. This is madness. I'm sure you ain't never seen no footage like this. You ain't never seen no footage like this, have you? Put a 1 in the chat if you ain't never seen no footage like this. These are the motherfuckers that Phil wants us to believe we have some kind of kinship with.
But man, I'm not free now. I don't do freedom now. You even talk and say are they free to go?
Men are free. For my hand.
Stop chagonum again. I'm going free now.
Family now forever. You don't know. I get people you see. See ya. Where we is. Only thing we fit separate family and death. Jawele.
Yeah, these the motherfuckers Phil want us to go kick it with. Guys, the transatlantic slave trade was a real thing. It did happen. Millions of slaves were trafficked. First, they were captured and sold by their fellow African, sold to foreigners for trinkets like beer and mirrors and shit. And over 40% of those slaves went to the Caribbean. Over 60% of those slaves went to South America, Brazil. Only 4% of those slaves went to North America. So do some of us have African heritage? Yes, a very tiny minority of us. Most of us, we have Aboriginal roots. Even the 4% that descend from African slaves, when they fled the plantation, they were adopted and accepted into indigenous cultures. That's how we have tribes like the Native Black American tribe of the Seminoles and many others. But guys, let's take a quick look at what our ancestors were saying about Africa back in the day, because you may not know that before the Emancipation Proclamation, Lincoln's plan was the Emancipation Deportation. You can go check out my channel. I recently did a live stream about a colonization plan where he deported over 500 recently freed Black slaves in America, sent them to an island in Haiti to die. But that's for another stream. But, you know, our ancestors were vehemently opposed going to Africa. If Africa was truly and rightfully our motherland, then when the government gives us a free boat ride to Africa, we would want to accept that, right? But our ancestors didn't. You know, we had Black-owned newspapers, Black-owned cities, Black-owned town, everything Black-owned. But let's go ahead and take a look at this publication, Kansas City, Missouri. This was written in the 1800s. It says, disenfranchise the Negro and send him back to Africa? Absurd. Impossible. More than $1 billion worth of United States real estate, which he owns in his own name in the United States, is not easily to be taken from him. Besides, the Negro is not an African. He is an American. African is a misnomer. Why try to send him to a country which is not his own? Yeah, that's how our ancestors was talking. They were standing on lineage, y'all. They were standing on lineage. You know what? Frederick Douglass also had his own publication called the North Star. I believe it was called the North Star. And I think I have an image here somewhere, because Frederick Douglass was very, very opposed to Lincoln's colonization schemes, and he wrote about it. January 22nd, 1852. It says, the colonization scheme. There is no sentiment more universally entertained nor more firmly held by the free colored people of the United States than that this is their own, their native land. and that here, for good or for evil, their destiny is to be wrought out. Identified with the entire history of the American people, going back more than 200 years, the sentiment is natural and praiseworthy. There is not now, there never has been, and we think there never will be any general desire on the part of our people to immigrate from this land to any other, and least of all to the wilds of Africa. Yeah, that's what our ancestors wrote about Africa. That's how they thought and felt about Africa. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to go ahead and drop the link. The phone lines are open. If anybody wants to call in, now is the time to do so. And we will be right back after this quick commercial break.
know, Mike is the real deal. His information is real. He's a humble brother, and he's all about the information. He's not about, personal gain or personal applause, personal credit. This is about our nation. It's not about one individual, but it's about us collectively as a people. And Mike is all about that, So we stand behind the brother 100%.
If you have any doubt, get it out your head immediately. So yeah, like I'm going to continue to work with Mike as much as I can. So I want to say thank you, Mike, for actually taking the time out and talk with me and my husband. Like you definitely informed us on a lot of things. And the people out there that's watching, he will also inform you on a lot of things that you may not even know about. So I want to say thank you again, Mike.
Right.
You know.
So the fact that Creole is a culture,
Yes.
which I completely understand, and which I originally I thought that's what it was, Creole, and it had nothing to do with race, complexion, or anything. But the reason why I gave my first statement, the fact that they're pushing like fairer skinned people or lighter complected people with
But who's
green eyes.
they?
Yeah, but that's in the Hispanic community. You have a whole
Well,
bunch of dark Hispanics, and they always push the light skinned Hispanic.
correct. So
You know,
media,
it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. But
when
I
media,
could give you a perfect example right now of a dark skinned person that's famous that nobody ever had. His name Clifton Chenier. He invented Zydeco music. The Zydeco that we hear nowadays, he invented that, and he's darker
What was his
than.
name again?
His name is Clifton Chenier.
Clifton Chenier. How do
Yeah,
you
he's
spell
the father.
Chenier?
Chenier. But out here it's Shanye, but out there it's Chenier. That's why we just go with the English version. But
Is
if
this
I was
him right
speaking,
here? Oh wait, these
uh,
some shoes. Hold on. Right here, Clifton Chenier.
yeah, that's him.
Okay.
Do he look light skinned?
Not at
No,
all.
his whole family dark skinned. He married the sister of Lightning Hopkins. He's the father. I think he's the father of Texas Blues or Texas. Yeah, I think Texas Blues.
yeah,
And
and the thing about it is that I'm not combating like individual experiences, but when you ask who is they, I mean media, and they push
But
the
when you
light.
talk about media, I mean Creole people don't have control over the media
Right,
that's
yeah,
pushing light skinned
right,
Creole over
correct.
dark skinned Creole.
However, um, that gives credence to what Philip Scott is saying, the whole racism notion and colorism. Even though that Creole people, so to speak, I'm going to say, I assume that Creole people don't have any power over media. They're not combating it. At least the fairer complected ones. It
yeah,
is
you're
all
right. We not compare because like you said, we just like regular black people in America. We have a lot of money, but it's not a lot of power in within that money. So of
right.
course the narrative gonna be where they all light skinned, they all green eyes, or they all this and that. And lately they've been trying to fight it back, but it's a losing cause because
Right.
like, you go eat like Popeyes. The guy from Popeyes learned how to make the fried chicken and the dirty rice and all that from the neighborhood he lived in New Orleans. People don't even know that. He didn't get that. He didn't know how to do that.
Right. What
But
it
at the same
is.
time, wait, hold on, Roy. If you can clarify though, when you said that the Creoles aren't combating it, I think, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this conversation is about to take a dark turn for the worse. Don't go anywhere. The stream's about to end, and it's automatically going to push you into the next live stream. This is going to be very contagious, very contentious, very sensational, very, very troubling. This woman is going to say some things that you would never expect her to say, especially to her fellow Black folks. But guys, don't touch that dial. Another stream is going to begin in just a moment, and there will be a 10-second countdown. Then it'll push you into the next broadcast. I'll see you there.